The Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement presents Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Galaxy Radio, galaxyafiwi.net. The only de-brainwashing station. In-depth discussions and live debates on all issues affecting the African community, at home and abroad. Tune in Mondays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. and have your say. It's live, it's hot, it's scintillating, it's real. It's Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Galaxy Radio, the only de-brainwashing station.
It's Sister Nkechi. Alkebu-Lan is known for keeping its finger on the pulse of the community, addressing the most pertinent and controversial issues some radio stations just won't touch. On Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan, we talk it straight and make it plain. This show is not for the faint-hearted.
We are here to complete the battles and achieve the victories that all our past freedom fighters who fought the right fight and who are now in the ancestral realm, looking over our shoulder. Tendai Mali.
We must begin always with the African worldview. That is the beginning for us. It is the core. It is the center from which issues our most profound thoughts.
La vie non est mon Dieu. Quoi marcher non? La vie non est mon Dieu. Zoa marcher non? La vie non est mon Dieu. Abolizad badia wongasiye. Isadorezo. Abolizad badia wongasiye. Isadorezo. Abolizad badia wongasiye. Isadorezo. Zo. Zo. Badakunu je ole. Oye, badakunu je bale ole. Ore les enfants yo, badakunu je ole. Oye, badakunu je bale ole. La nouvelle ça changer, badakunu je ole. Oye, badakunu je bale ole. Pour assemble Guinée, badakunu je ole. Oye, badakunu je bale ole. Ore les enfants yo, badakunu je bale ole. Ore les tout bon mounio, badakunu je bale ole. Ore les tous enfants yo, badakunu je bale ole. Ensemble tout bon sang yo, badakunu je bale ole. Ore les Guinéens yo, badakunu je ole. Oye, badakunu je bale ole. Double pour s'arranger, badakunu je ole. Oye, badakunu je bale ole. Double pays nous marcher, badakunu je ole. Oye, badakunu je bale ole. Double pour ça marcher bien, badakunu je ole. Oye, badakunu je bale ole. Et les enfants guinéens, badakunu je bale ole. Et les enfants lakayo, badakunu je bale ole. Les timoun yo, badakunu je bale ole. Et les tous enfants yo, badakunu je bale ole.
Depuis petit,
When the lines are open, call in on 0203 289 6504 or Skype us on official Galaxy Afiwi Radio, or you can WhatsApp or text us at any time on 07947 479 219.
By the way, Vanglorious, this is protected by the red, the black, and the green at the crossroad with the key, sissy.
Tendai Mwadi, giving thanks and praises to Mwanya Kusika, the creator of the universe, for the spirits of Mzumukuru, our great ancestors. Rumbidza Kunamuraye Africa, to the creator of Africa, be the glory. We say, Abibi Fahodi, African liberation. Greetings, Galaxy family. You're tuned in to show number 481 of Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan. It's a joy to be an African, and it is indeed a joy to be right here on Galaxy Radio, celebrating 40 years and still going strong. Tendai Mwadi. Hosting tonight's program is Brother Kweku and myself, Brother Olatunji. Continues to send vibrations of love, healing, and power and strength to our beloved brother Omowale until his righteous return to the Galaxy Africa Speaks hot seat. It's Good Jubilee Day, Babylon Monday, and it is 10 minutes past the hour of 7 p.m. So keep it locked right here on the Big G, GalaxyAfiwi.net. When the lines are open, you can join us by phoning 0203 289 6504 or Skype us at official Galaxy Afiwi Radio. That's when the lines are open. We're going to announce when it's going to be, sisters and brothers. Or you can WhatsApp, text, or Telegram at any time on 07947 479 219. Sisters and brothers, at the top of the show, you heard the sounds of Rara Machine and Bade, followed by Daddy Bedroun and Edike. Both sounds from our beloved warrior island of Haiti. Sisters and brothers, in keeping with the theme not only of this show, but I would say this month, I would have to say, sisters and brothers, hail up our warriors in the island of Haiti. So yes, sisters and brothers, I want to give thanks to Dr. Abu and Brother Jamal for the last 3 hours of scientific de-brainwashing of the highest order that you only get right here on the Big G. Sisters and brothers, I want to hail up as well Empress Anwar in the flight path before Dr. Abu and Brother Jamal between 1 and 4 today. I want to hail up Brother Kwame, the quiet one, with the Griot show between 10 and 1 today. And I want to hail up as well the Blacknificent Brother Aston with the early rising show between 7 and 9 as well. Of course, you need to hail up our management headed by our visionary Nana Kokombabai, alongside an excellent team of management supporting that vision, manifesting that vision, maintaining that vision all these years as well. Sisters and brothers, also want to hail up our master technicians steering the mothership through some choppy waters in this current time, but ensuring that 24/7, 365, the vibration comes from our heart to your ears, sisters and brothers. I want to give some healing vibrations and love to our warrior Baba Herokuti, as well as healing vibrations to our Empress Culture and Ras Ezekiel. Also sending some vibrations of love to our Baba, Galaxy's Baba, Elder Beckford. Coming up after Africa Speaks, sisters and brothers, at 10 p.m. this evening is the one and only SG Vibe with the first night meditations. That's 10 p.m. into the morning. And at the break of dawn tomorrow, 7 a.m. It's the legendary Brother Io with the Global African Connection. You don't want to miss that, sisters and brothers, so keep it locked right here at GalaxyAfiwi.net. We bring greetings also from our spiritual leader, Brother Lisa Bandaka, alongside Queen Kaya Wagadao Bandaka. And greetings also from the entire Alkebu-Lan family. Tonight, sisters and brothers, Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on the only de-brainwashing station. How do we re-liberate Haiti? Part 1. How do we re-liberate Haiti? Part 1. Sisters and brothers, I want to say right here and now to tender to all of you who are able and have been supporting the works of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement in a financial manner. And if you too want to join that number, you can do so by a regular monthly contribution or one-off contribution, sisters and brothers, to the following account number. The account number is 235-03351. That's 235-03351. The sort code is 560017. 560017. And it's a NatWest account, and the account name is Mama Africa, Africa spelled with a K. And of course, we implore you to continue to donate to the mothership and Galaxy itself, especially in its 40th year. It can go towards our rising costs and our organising capacity, sisters and brothers. And you can do so at this following account number, 11375989. 11375989. The sort code is 400232. 400232. It's an HSBC account, and the account name is initial R, and the name Hales, Hayles. Hayles. Sisters and brothers, without further ado, I want to bring to the microphone my co-host for this evening, Brother Kweku. Tell them my Brother Kweku.
Tell them my brother.
Mm-hmm.
You good?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. I'm looking forward to tonight's show. No, not only tonight's show, but the next few shows, because it's going to be a series. We're going to be having sisters and brothers. The eyes of the African world are trained on Ayiti, because once again, some mischief is afoot, and we're going to get into the weeds, as they say, of what's going on, sisters and brothers, over the next few shows, as we've seen so much else out there on social media. But we've got the one person we can rely on to get to the heart of it and convey what's going on with insight, with spirit, and with love, sisters and brothers. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss this show. You don't want to miss these next few shows on about Ayiti, sisters and brothers. Yes, indeed. And of course, on subject of Ayiti, I'll let you know, sisters and brothers, we do say, as the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, freedom begins with the freedom of the mind and the soul. So we offer Alkebu-Lan Shemira, which is African spiritual worship in a communal setting. This is the foundation of our nation, sisters and brothers, our spiritual, cultural orientation. We do it on the first Day, first Babylon Sunday of every month, up there at the Chestnuts Community Centre, 280 St Anne's Road, London, N15 154BN for Botswana, Namibia, sisters and brothers. And on the first Day of the month of May, so-called Africa Liberation Month, we call it, we have a message entitled, "Throw away the image of the white man's God, Ayiti, and the vision of African liberation." Yes, sisters and brothers, you heard it right. Throw away the image of the white man's God, Ayiti, and the vision of African liberation. Again, this is African Liberation Month, and what better focus can we have than the word sounds of our Baba, our warrior, Bookman Dutty, who chanted those words back in 1791, sisters and brothers, in the invocation in Bwakaiman to initiate the final phase of the Haitian Revolution. Throw away the image of the white man's God.
That's an instruction.
It is. Haiti and the vision of African liberation. Messenger is going to be, of course, it's going to be Brother Shakara, on that, who's been doing some great works on Got Kush TV, covering different aspects of the current situation in Haiti as well. But he'll be delivering the message, sisters and brothers. You don't want to miss that. Got ample notice. Organise your diary, organise your calendars, synchronise everything, and get down to Chestnuts Community Centre on Day, Babylon Sunday, the 5th of May, so-called, at 12 midday for our Shemira. You don't want to miss that, sisters and brothers. So, yeah, we implore you all to come out. More details, go to Alkebu-Lan.org and go to the next Shemira page for details of what you can expect on the day, sisters and brothers. So, yes, Brother Kweku, CSA O.J. Simpson has passed away.
Yeah, I heard he passed, but I haven't really looked into anything on online or anything, especially regarding with what these people have to be. They're called folk. I don't know why we call them folks, but anyway, that's what they're calling.
Well, apparently, who's calling who folks?
Africans are calling them people their folks? What is it?
I think it's because it's a word of Germanic origin, and I think so it's like a white word anyway. I think it comes from the root word is volks. So I remember one time I saw a debate between Mark Lamont Hill and this idiot Christopher Rufo, and I think Mark Lamont Hill used the word folks, and I think the idiot Wire took exception to it, and he said apparently that's the origin of the word, so that might be the reason why. I don't know.
All right, anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah, so I haven't really.
No, I've just seen a few things, and I just find it's interesting how a lot of these African commentators seem to be emphasising how much they believe that OJ did it. Thinking like, you got nothing better to say after all these years. I mean, if they were on the jury, I can see that. But if you're on the jury, then you acquitted him. But you weren't on the jury, so you didn't see what the jury saw. You have the information the jury had, and the jury acquitted him.
You imagine, though, you have an African man, yeah? Wealthy African man, yeah? And he was looked upon almost in a divine nature in the States. When you hear some of the things he used to get up with, and what them people there would allow him to do, right? It could see how his head was twist his head, yeah? So you imagine you have that kind of figure, and then he's up now in the courts. Where you ever hear say a black man, right, going to court, right, under them kind of charges there, right, and then win? You know? That's what people have to bear in mind, because I was looking at this, you know, there's this lake called Lake Lanier. Is it Lanier? Underneath it was a town where we was, yeah? And it became quite a wealthy town. So there was an African man, well, there was a Bakla girl get killed, yeah, and they accused this man. He's an innocent man, but they accused him, yeah? Long shot of it, him get lynched. And they dealt with his wife as well, and his family, and all him cousin, yeah, and all any associate with him. Then they burned down the town. Eventually, they put a lake over it. Yeah, it's a large lake. Anyway, so we have to remember, say, that these people, when they want their justice, they are going for a lynching, right? That is their mode of operandi. It is to lynch. In fact, they say in Texas, they still do, you know, their barbecue and things like that, their parties, when there's a state killing of a prisoner, especially an African one. And when they ask who is it for, they say, oh, it's for, you know, Joe Bob's birthday, or, you know, whoever they want to bring up. But it's the same thing like when they used to say, you know, they have their little postcards when they're going for a barbecue. They mean they're burning us at the stake. Yeah? So these were, it was like going to the, what do you call it, the American Rose Bowl, you know, the American football, the biggest, or over here you say FA Cup, it was the biggest, most exciting time, you know, is to see African lynched, burned, and they will cut pieces of him and put in a jar, you know. So, you know, they'll pickle it and all them things there. So, you know, and OJ got through that, against all of that, right, the lynch mob, and come out. And that's all we have to look on it as. You know? America don't see right or wrong, you know. They just see it's us and them. That's all they look at.
Yeah.
you know. And it's full time now. We stop this thing about trying to be honest in front of them. You know, say a word if you're going to get you out of trouble, right? But don't give them praise of anything. If them acquit you, don't give them no praise.
But the people who say that are not even being honest, because they're honest, they just simply come out and say, I'm afraid of Bakra. Because that's really what they're saying. You don't upset them. It's like, boy, our beloved brother Shaka, when he was around, he said, it's like, he said, what is it thing? It's like, want to fight the white man, but don't upset him. Was that the one? Yeah. So
upset, you know, not even hurt, you know.
Yeah.
You don't want to upset him.
Yeah. So it's thing. A lot of it comes from that, and I think it's a good contrast with the subject this evening. A lot of it comes from when you take on other people's ideologies and stuff, and seek allyship with them. Then you get yourself tied up in all kind of knots, and you have to take all kind of positions that really are against your nature and your being. And so, Ayiti is
not only against our nature and our being; it's against logic. We suspend logic, especially in the religious context, in trying to prove ourselves worthy of being a Christian or even a Muslim, for that matter, by not even resorting to anger or even hatred when somebody murders your loved one. You know, we don't even get in an emotional state. The first thing we want to do, remember that, we want to go and hug them. And when them say, oh, they cry their crocodile tears and say they're sorry, we're the first one. Go up to them and embrace them and say, yes, yes. Man.
Reminds me of Sister Soldier on her first LP, 360 Degrees of Power. She had a track called State of Accommodation. And in the opening preamble, she said she called it State of Accommodation. It's a feeling that African people have grown so accustomed to living in pain, we think it's normal, and in some strange way, we've even grown to like it. So it's like, that's what it is. And I think it's serious because all the things you said they did, there's no sense of remorse or regret or contrition or anything. In fact, what they're trying to do, what they get livid, mad, vexed about, is if you bring it up. Yeah. So they're trying to erase that whole history from the history books, from the public sphere and public space. That's what they're trying to do, trying to erase the whole thing. And it's amazing, actually. So I think they're trying to erase African people, period, because, right, the affirmative action thing in America is, there's different aspects to it, but the point was they were trying to make sure, eradicate Africa. I mean, you have to query what Ivy League colleges have done to benefit African people. Apart from Carnegie Woodson I can think of, I'm wondering what the benefit's been. But the point is...
Prestige?
Prestige for what, though? What have we got?
Well, we could say we have a college, we have a university star.
Right. Great. But the objective is to erase us from the public sphere in those elite institutions, so-called. Same with the whole DEI going on, trying to ensure any position, DEI. So the idea is to erase African people. And again, what they want to do is roll back legislation. They've already targeted the Voting Rights Act in America. Now they're going to go for the civil rights legislation. That's what they want to do. And we have to realize, for African people, what is there for us? I mean, it's not on the scale of what they're doing in Haiti, but it's still a scale where actually, so this is where the all anti-woke stuff comes in. Because you ask it, and you keep seeing these viral clips where some background gets asked, what does woke mean? And they're starting stammering to define it. And the issue is, it's not they don't know what it means. They're struggling to define it in a way that tries to conceal its true meaning while signaling to those who agree with them what it means. That's the trouble. That's the trouble they've got. Mm-hmm. They can't find the right dog whistle term to use. Because what basic woke means is black. It means us. Mm. So anti-woke is anti-us. Right, they add on this group and that group on it, etc. So that's what it means. That's why they can't come out and say it straight. That's the usual struggle with it.
Is there a word called woke, though, in English language? I don't think there is it?
It is.
Is there?
And it's a word that's, well, apparently, I mean, they traced it back to Leadbelly, a blues artist in the 1930s, who used the term. Some attribute it to Marcus Garvey, and about awake and woke. I know Erykah Badu used it in one of her songs as well.
What I'm saying is that's our word.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in the English word.
I don't know. It might not be, but certainly, what we do with the languages is amend it anyway. So
so as soon as I heard woke, I said, well, what they're going on about? Because I understood what it means. It's like when we say aware.
Yeah, basically.
You know?
But basically, they try and say it's not a catch-all term. It means us, and that's the subtext for it. They may attach all these different groups into it. That's what it means when they say anti-woke. So we need to be clear. When everyone says anti-woke, that's what it means.
If it's anti-woke, then we should all be asleep then.
Well, this is it. Anti-us. But like I said, sisters and brothers, as we do, we did, unfortunately, miss it last strong. We've been featuring every show this year. Project 6264, raising African spirituality to a higher level, to the higher heights. And that's been our guide for that aspect of the show, been our spiritual leader, Brother Ezili Danto. Wasn't able to make it, join us last strong, but he's back, sisters and brothers. We're honoured to have him back with us, our spiritual leader. He is an activist of over 40 years standing. He's also an African Centre education consultant. He is also the visionary that brought us the Messiah observance back in 1998, and the author of the official guide for the Messiah season, the Messiah Daily Affirmations. Also a key supporter of Sister Dinaba or Mama Dinaba in developing the London Schools and the Black Child Conference. And at that conference, he has produced a video and accompanying booklet, Education, an African-Centered Approach to Excellence. We're honoured, sisters and brothers, to welcome back to the Africa Speaks Airways, Brother Leader Bandaka. Tender my brother leader.
Tendamwari. Mwari mukurukuru. Kuzai muzimu mukuru. Tendai mwari. Regai mazui andino taura nepungwa zemumuyo mangu. Zinzikwe nemi mwari. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Jah of our creation. Tendai mwari. Ari kumborera i Africa. Ngai simuzire zitorayo. Nzwai mitero yedu. Isumriayo itumuriako. Uyamweya komborere. Uyamweya muzwene. Isumuriayo itumuriako. Tendai mwari. Mwari. Jah, God bless Africa. Lift up the name of Africa on high. Hear our humble prayers, O Mwari, O Jah. We, the family of Africa, we, this family of Africa, come, Great Spirit, come. Come and bless us. Come, Great Spirits, come. Come and be with us. We, the family of Africa, we, this family of Africa. Tendai mwari. Lazima tutashinda mbila shaka. Lazima tutashinda mbila shaka. All power to our people. Right. We will conquer without a doubt. Yes. Royal elders, queens and kings, princesses and princes of great Mama Africa, I bring greetings in the most precious powerful and bountiful name of our motherland, Alkebu-Lan, Mama Africa, in the sacred spirits of our most gracious ancestors, and in a prayer for oneness, hope, and prosperity for all African people upon the face of Mother Earth. Rumbidzo kunamwariye Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. It is a joy to be an African, and a joy and a blessing to be on Galaxy Radio, ministering to the most important and the most beautiful and precious people on the planet, the sons and daughters of Africa. We say again, Rumbidzo kunamwariye Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Giving thanks and praises unto Mwari Nyakusika, God the creator of the universe, through Muzimu Mukuru, our great ancestors, for life, for the meaning and purpose of life, for health and strength and daily food, for the rising of Amen-Ra upon this blessed day of Kujichagulia, the day of self-determination. In this, on this 15th day of the 4th month of the year, as we continue to breathe the breath of life, we give thanks and praises for all mercies, great and small. Amongst those mercies, the blessing of the wisdom of Tehuti, and the blessing, the blessed knowledge of Ma'at, truth, justice, and righteousness, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. And Jehuti, wisdom, knowledge, and overstanding, keen insight, exceptional perception, and authoritative utterance of the power of the word. Beloved brothers and sisters, this is Project 6264, raising African spirituality to a higher level. Raising African spirituality to a higher level. We who understand the power of the Spirit, we who understand the power of the soul, realize, beloved brothers and sisters, that there is no freedom for our people, no freedom for African people, but the freedom that begins with the freeing of the African mind and the African soul. The African mind that is alive and awake to who we are by nature, the first people of the first land, endowed with the most prodigious gifts of providence, gifts of the wealthiest land, its natural resources, its arable qualities, its range of minerals that we have been blessed with, and the supreme intellect, second to none, the genius, the natural genius that we as African people have been endowed with. Unless we have the freedom of mind that is awake and alive to that reality, and the capacity to make manifest that power of intellect, that productive and creative connectedness with the land and the natural forces of the land. Without that, there is no freedom for us as African people. Without the being alive and awakened to the fact of our natural divinity as a people, how we as Africans are connected in spirit to the divine supreme creator of the universe. Until we are alive and awakened to the fact that we are the manifest image and personification of the divine creator of the universe. Until we are alive and awakened to that reality, that truth, and the capacity, the confidence, the conviction to make that manifest in how we project ourselves individually and collectively, how we build relationships, families, communities, nations, kingdoms, empires, grounded in that supreme consciousness, grounded in the laws and the principles of Ma'at. I say again, Ma'at, truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. And Jehuti, wisdom, knowledge, and overstanding, keen insight, exceptional perception, and authoritative utterance of the power of the word. Unless we are in command of these fundamentals of life, of being, of divine being, then there is no freedom for us as African people, unless we can see ourselves in the divine and the divine in us, and unless we can cultivate the essence of that, of the divine in our lives, in our relationships, in the construction of our families, our communities, our nation, there is no liberation for us as a people, because freedom begins with the freeing of the mind and soul. We have to liberate our consciousness and connectedness with the Creator, the deities of Mama Africa, Mudzimu Mukuru, our great ancestors. We have to reconnect with the Creator through the lineage through which the Creator brought us into being. The natural lineage through which the Creator brought us into being. And that is indisputably the lineage of our ancestors in mind, body, and spirit. Thus, we, as a vital prerequisite for our liberation, must rescue and reconstruct our African spiritual-cultural systems. Only then, beloved brothers and sisters, will we have possess the power to secure our existence such that no one on the planet would dare to even conceive of penetrating or even attempting to invade or to in any way infiltrate or destabilize our ordered society, because they will see and know not only who we are, but that we are conscious and in command of who we are. It's one thing being African and being blessed and being endowed with all of the richest gifts of life, of being. It's another thing knowing and being in command of that in the building of character, of relationships, of community, of families, of communities, of nations. Beloved brothers and sisters, I raise up as we walk through this phase of our spiritual focus this evening, I raise up our beloved people of Haiti. Haiti is our focus. Haiti is our preoccupation in this moment, beloved brothers and sisters. Haiti, Haiti, oh blessed Haiti. We're used to saying Haiti. We must, beloved brothers and sisters, learn the proper pronunciation of the name of the indigenous people of the land, known as the Taino, or as the Arawaks. Some say the Arawaks, some say the Taino, from whom comes the word Ayiti, which means a high place. A high place which emphasizes the journey of a people seeking to connect or to make manifest the gifts of high culture and deep thought. A people seeking to nurture themselves so that they can transform themselves into progressive stages to become more Mwari-like, more God-like. Haiti, a high place. Haiti, whom the Europeans, the French, when they got there, called the Pearl of the Antilles, a blessed place, endowed with rich soil and richness of mineral resources, but with an evil, vicious scheme of enslaving Africans so that Africans can work themselves to death so Europeans can enjoy wealth and riches. And rightly, our people rose up against that vicious, barbaric, fiendish, and evil system and threw off the yoke of oppression. Rightly, beloved brothers and sisters, evoking the power of Ogun, the deity of iron, indestructibility, the path clearer, the deity of war and of justice, to heap justice upon their oppressors and overturning the system and successfully defeating the three leading military forces of Europe, backed by the United States of America, as France was, and gave hope to the entire populace of Africans who were enslaved. This is our focus this evening. And who have been punished, beloved brothers and sisters, brutally, unrelentingly punished for the last 220 years for daring to liberate itself and bring hope to its brothers and sisters, its family, who were in the same wretched situation. So we bring to our shrine this evening the people of Haiti, the sons and daughters of Mama Africa, domiciled in Haiti and being so viciously and so savagely brutalized by the historical enemies of our people. We bring our brothers and sisters of Haiti to our shrine, our virtual communal shrine on Galaxy Radio this evening, as we evoke the indomitable spirit of Ogun. Ogun to rise again and do his work. Yes, 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 beloved brothers and sisters. We evoke the spirit of the warriors of Haiti, the one-armed prophet, Makandal Uyayi Asheo, call upon all those who shed blood. Grand Bridget, his queen, who stood by him, fought with him, resisting the vicious oppression of the Europeans. We evoke the spirit. We evoke the spirit of Bookman Dotti. Bookman Dotti. Bookman Dotti. Uyayi, come forth. Rise, Bookman Dotti.
Rise.
Muka, rise. Semuka, rise, Bookman Dotti. Rise, Bookman Dotti, and fill the hearts, minds, and the souls of our people of Haiti. Fill the hearts and minds and souls of all of us as Africans around the world, so we understand Haiti is our business. Haiti freed itself so we all could be free. That was the vision. It was a Pan-African vision, beloved brothers and sisters. Because of time, I want to utter some word sounds from the mouth and the soul of those great ones. Bookman Dotti, who along with Cecile Fatima, Mama Cecile Fatima, spiritual leader, both of them led the Wakeman Ogun ceremony, evoking the spirit of Ogun, possessing the minds and souls and bodies of the faithfuls, preparing them for war, just war that we could not lose. We need that spirit today, beloved brothers and sisters. And at that ceremony, these immortal words in an incantation was raised by Bookman Dotti, who said, "Good God, who created the sun which shines on us from above, who rouses the sea and makes the thunder rumble. Listen, God, though hidden in the clouds, watches over us. The God of the white man calls forth crime, but our God wills good works. Our God, who is so good, commands us to vengeance. He will direct our arms and help us. Throw away the image of the white man's God. who has so often brought us to tears, and listen to liberty which speaks in all our hearts. Throw away the image, brothers and sisters, of the white man's God, who has so often brought us to tears, and listen to the God of liberty. That is the God of Africa, that speaks through all our hearts. We evoke the spirit of Dessalines. We evoke the spirit of Dessalines. We evoke the spirit of Tantoya, his aunt, who nurtured him, who guided him, who prepared him for that fateful day and time when he would need to lead his people, when he would need to complete the war that Toussaint, bless his soul, was too enamored with the culture and the imagery of Frenchness, the trappings of Frenchness, to deliver the killer blow. It took a Dessalines who had no love for these people, who had no connection with these people. And in his words, beloved brothers and sisters, in his words, Dessalines said, in the name of the black people, the African people, and the men of color of Saint Domingo, the independence of Saint Domingo, that was before it was renamed Haiti, is proclaimed. Restored to our primitive dignity, we have asserted our rights. We swear never to yield them to any power on earth. The rightful veil of prejudice is torn to pieces. Be it so forever. Woe be to them who would dare to put together its bloody tatters. And then, finally, for now, as regards the utterance of the word sounds of Dessalines, there's so much powerful, awesome words that Dessalines spoke. But he also said, beloved brothers and sisters, it is not enough. This is in the wake of the completion of the revolution, when we had vanquished the down pressers. We had vanquished the French and vanquished the Spanish and vanquished the British and stood victoriously. Our leader rose before us and instructed us that it was not enough to have expelled from our country the barbarians who have stained it with blood for 2 centuries. It is not enough, he said, to have stopped the factions which have always reviewed each after its turn, a phantom of liberty. We will explain that in our discussion this evening, this concept of the phantom of liberty, that the French exposed to our eyes. He said our laws, our manners, our cities all carry the imprint of France. We can't just get rid of them physically. Look around us. He's showing us our laws, our manners, our cities, all carry the imprint of France. And then he says, brothers and sisters, and what a dishonorable absurdity, conquering in order to become slaves. Think about that, beloved brothers and sisters. Conquering in order to become slaves. Done all the hard work. But until we get rid of the spirit of Frenchness, of Europeanness, until we exorcise our beings of their contaminating spirit, we are not free. We are still enslaved, is the message here, beloved brothers and sisters. This is why we have Project 6264, raising African spirituality to a higher level, because the rescue and reconstruction of our spirituality and our culture enables us to just sound more African, look more African, walk more like an African, see more like an African, visualize more like an African, eat more like an African, sleep more like an African, make love more like an African, just be more like the African we were created to be. And the more African we are in mind and character, the more invincible we become. Beloved brothers and sisters, this is Project 6264, raising African spirituality to a higher level, reminding us that freedom begins with the freeing of the mind and soul. And this evening, because of the situation in Haiti, we are placing before our shrines the 12 million people of Haiti and the 3 or 4 million in the Haiti diaspora, some of whom would want to return home, some of whom are refugees. Because of the circumstances, we are bringing every single one of them before our African shrine and breathing the spirit of African revolution in every single one of them, as we bring every single of the approximately 2.5 billion Africans from around the world. We seek to breathe the breath of revolution in every single one of us, so we can fulfill the words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who instructs us that if 400 million Africans, 2.2 billion Africans could only get to know themselves, then in the next 24 hours we would have a new race, a new nation, an empire resurrected. Rise, you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will. Project 6264, raising African spirituality to a higher level. Over and out. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. Tendai Mwari, sisters and brothers, you're tuned into Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan. Just heard the Brother Leader Bandaka with Project 6264, our ongoing series to raise African spirituality to a higher level, where it truly deserves to be in the hearts, minds and souls of every African on this planet. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. Sister and brother, we're going to get into our main subject this evening. We're going to hand over to Brother Kweku for our synopsis. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, to Tendai my brother.
Tendai Mwari.
CARICOM is hailing the establishment of a transitional governing council in Haiti, following the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry amid a rising tide of violence on the streets. while the Caribbean regional body eyes the possibility of a new beginning for Haiti, that's quote and unquote, others are suggesting that it is, quote, taking a leading role in the legitimizing of foreign intervention in Haiti, end quote. Given that Haiti endured the United Nations MINUSTAH occupation led by Brazil between 2004 and 2007, that left, and I quote, left a trail of destruction, a trail of repression. There are concerns that this new initiative will be little more than MINUSTAH II, the Blackface version. However, there is a resistance on the ground from organizations like MOLEGHAF, that's the National Movement for Liberty and Equality of Haitians for Fraternity, that is calling all revolutionary forces in the country to unite with the popular masses. In this first installment of a three-part series, Sister Èzili Danto of the Haitian Lawyers Leadership Network and the Free Haiti Movement provides a historical context of Haiti's fight for liberation and how the 2004 occupation was a precursor to the current machinations of CARICOM, as well as some surprising information about the Transitional Council. We ask the question, how do we reliberate Haiti? Part 1. 1. Should we give the Transitional Council a chance to see if it can bring peace to Haiti? 2. Or is it just MINUSTAH II in blackface? 3. Is CARICOM really trying to help, or is it merely a front for more Western intervention? 4. Is MOLEGHAF's agenda for Haiti viable? Our special guest is Sister Èzili Danto. She was once a legal advisor to President Jean-Bertrand Aristide of Haiti and is founder of the Haitian Lawyers Leadership Network, a network of lawyers, journalists, activists, and grassroots organizations dedicated to institutionalizing the rule of law and protecting the civil and cultural rights of Haitians at home and abroad. She also runs the Ezili Danto website and the Free Haiti movement. For the full synopsis, you can get that at Alkebu-Lan.org/ASWAG.
Tendai, give thanks and praise for that. Give thanks and praise for that, Brother Kweku. Like we said, when you hear our sister Èzili Danto, you're going to be moved like we were. We've been, since we first had her on Africa Speaks, which was back in 2010, it's not just information you get. She speaks from the soul and the spirit of the people of Haiti, from the depths. Weren't able to schedule a live show with her because she's very busy doing the works. So we did sat down with her, myself, Brother Kweku, Brother Leader Bandaka, sat down with Sister Èzili yesterday for an interview. Went way over the scheduled time. There was so much to get through. So we're going to give you installments, Sister and Brother. Tonight, the first installment, we just really introduce some of the works that our sister has been engaged in over the last 3 decades, as well as looking at this new transitional council that's just been announced, supposedly to bring in a new beginning for Haiti. So we're going to play this recorded interview for about 45 minutes or so. Then we're going to bring back Brother Leader Bandaka. Then we're going to open a line, sisters and brothers, for your feedback and your input on the situation in Haiti and what the Pan-African position should be. sisters and brothers. So next voice you're going to hear, sisters and brothers, is going to be that of our beloved sister Èzili Danto, speaking on Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan here on the Big G. Tendamari.
My name is Èzili Dantò. Èzili Dantò is the spiritual mother. It is all that is feminine, justice, Mahat, and it is the irreducible essence that came together on August 14, 1791 to quicken our folks, the amalgamated African tribes coming all the way from Angola to Congo to Niger to West Africa, who were enslaved prisoners of war in Haiti for over 300 years, since Haiti is the first place that the Europeans started their mahafa for us in the Western Hemisphere. And we were the first ones to beat them in combat. And today we continue to push back against the colonist. I was born in Haiti, raised in the United States. I went back as the lawyer for the first elected president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, in 1994. Then I started something called the Haitian Lawyers Leadership Network. President Aristide wanted us to help reform the rule of law, have something like a defense bar for the masses. When I went to Haiti, the U.S. ambassador said I can only work for the U.S. and that someone like me should not be working for, the poor. Oh. And tried to kill me that time, and that was 1994. And so in 2004, when they came in again on the 200th anniversary of Haiti's independence, obviously these retrograde, subhuman folks do not want my children, Black people, to be free. And so Haiti, the reason they say hate, that is not the pronunciation, it's Haiti. Even I have problems with it. Decolonization is a process. Mm-hmm. So I want you all to understand that. You do as much as you can, but remember, when you're using their language, that's part of the subjugation. And so I try very hard to say not hate, which they changed it to, but Ayiti.
Ayiti.
Yes. Ayiti, right? That is the fawn. Ayi, right, means motherland. T means land, Ayi is highland. So the Africans who became Haitian in the land of what they say the Taino, but I want you all to know we are original to the planet, and there were Black folks in the Americas and in Haiti. That is the story that is not told. That's the story that I do tell. So in 2004, when the United States, along with France and Canada and the other Western former enslavers, were so offended that on our 200th anniversary, we still were there, that they decided to do a final solution. They decided it was time. They had a meeting. It was called the Ottawa Initiative in 2003. And that meeting, they said that by 2019,
sorry, sis, the what initiative?
It was called the Ottawa Initiative.
Okay, right.
It was in Ottawa. They had this meeting in Ottawa of ministers, a bit like this 2024 meeting with CARICOM.
Yes,
and
we'll get to that.
Get there. So in the meeting that they had 20 years ago, they said that by 2019, Haiti would be a bomb waiting to happen because there would be about 20 million people. What you have to understand is there are 15 Caribbean island state nations that are part of what they call CARICOM, right? The Caribbean Regional Organization. All the other 14 are colonized and pretty much have given up. They bow to the Queen. Jamaica has its highest court still in England. we are the only one within that space that fought for our freedom, and the people are always going into the street because what they do is the European, after the Cold War, decided it was best to hide their hand again. They constantly hide their hand with fake elections. After the independence movement in Africa, that's what they did also, fake elections. So you'll see Haiti and Haitians on the streets all the time, millions of them saying, you know, we didn't elect this person. He doesn't belong to us. So in 2004, they just hated the fact that we had elected, and the masses rose and elected President Aristide. The idea that on the 200th anniversary of our independence, beating three of these vampires nations, the French, the Spanish, and the English, that we could still be here and have what they call democracy, right? Have a step towards having the people have a voice bothered them so much. In addition to the fact that Aristide asked for the reparations that we had to pay. We pay reparations to our enslavers for 122 years. So we got our independence in 1804. By 1825, France had come back with cannons and essentially said, you pay us for losing my grand as property. Otherwise, we will go blow you to kingdom come. But yet, most of the academics writing Haiti's history will tell you, oh, you know, Dessalines was a brutal killer of white folks.
Yeah.
They don't tell you that we spent 300 years of enslavement, 13 years of fighting the French, the Spanish, and the English. And then when we won our independence, of course, they refused to recognize that. They murdered Toussaint Louverture. Last week we were elevating Toussaint Louverture, who's not our founding father, but he is the general who came before.
Yeah.
Without him, there would be no Dessalines. So this is where we are. So on April 7th, 1802. The French slavers murdered Toussaint Louverture. They also brutalized his wife, Suzanne Baptiste Louverture. We tell the story of all of our heroes because a family went to war, not just men. A family. Right now, we're at war. It's not just about Black men that's at war. It's Black women, Black children, all of us are at war. Our ancestors understood that. So children fought. Didn't matter how old they were. They had to fight back, otherwise they would be enslaved. Today, we don't seem to really understand that. We do Google Gaga with our children like the European because he can afford that. We cannot. So that's kind of a general understanding. I started the Free Haiti movement in 2004 when France, after 200 years, set their foot on Haiti as soldiers. They hadn't been able to do that before. Even though they came with the reparations in 1825, they had never set their foot. You know, of course, they also, you know, I want to always make clear things that is not clear about our history. They came back after the independence debt with ecclesiastical colonialism first by bringing the Pope in 1860, right? Once you control the mind of your educated, right? That's like the biggest step towards subjugation because they will do it themselves. They will subjugate their own people for you because everything Eurocentric is supposed to be beautiful. Everything African is supposed to be brutal and savage because they project their offensive pathology on my children. So this is basically an introduction. So Free Haiti started 2004. That's 20 years ago. Before that, Haitian Lawyers Leadership Network, that's 30 years ago.
Wow.
And I have a law case right now against the Ayiti government who came in, through a tweet by these witches like Ellen Lalume. The European, now he'll put fake. He won't come front. He'll bring in, his women, white faces, white women, or a black person. Whether it's Obama or Kamala, or now CARICOM.
Or Colin Powell.
Yes, or Madame Rice, Condoleezza. This
goes on.
And the list goes on. But this is the template hasn't changed, and that's why we need to step up. Back in the day, they would take black overseers to beat you. Now they call them gangs, or tribal, or terrorism. But they're the ones that create them. They're the ones that support them. They're the ones that provide them with guns.
Indeed. Thanks for that very extensive response. I want to really start from where we stand, because you mentioned CARICOM. You mentioned the case as well, the legal case. I want to get to that as well. But the last couple of days, we've seen this announcement of this transitional council for Haiti. And it's interesting because some of the media outlets are naming names. Well, CNN is naming names, but most are not. I don't know if you've seen the list of names they're attributing to this transitional council, Mr. Ezili.
Yes, I know who's participating in the transitional council. As I do, what I do is Haiti. Unfortunately, all of Haiti is my life. I try not to. I do try to do other things, but unfortunately, the names of I mean, I can tell you names, but it really be meaningless for you. Let me tell you where they belong, who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you Leslie Voltaire. I can give you, Louis Girard-Gilles, and you won't know, right?
Yeah.
I know the Negroes.
Tendai Moari, sorry to interrupt. Tendai Moari. It might be useful, however, to hear the names, because they may well become public property in the not too distant future. And so we will know who they are by name. You would have given us a heads up, so we would know the name.
Okay. All right. But okay. But all right. So I will give you the names. So okay, before I give you context, Smith Augustin, Louis Girard-Gilles, Fritz Alphonse, René Jean Jumeau, Frisnel Joseph, Edgar Leblanc, Laurent Saint-Ville, Emmanuel Villers, and Leslie Voltaire. Okay. Yes. Those are the names. All right. Now, to make you understand what this is. Yes. Number one, I use words, right? To just give you things, right? K-N-E-E-G-R-O-W. That's my word for Negro. Okay. So all these Negroes have signed up for the colonial project.
Yes.
For various reasons. I'm not sure that I think it's the sign of the time. I'm going to give them all of the apology first, and then I'll tell you what I really think. So, yeah, for all of the, they feel that this is the only way to participate in the ruling of their government. They have to be part of the system. They feel that these men have been around since I've been around. So they've been around in office since I've been fighting. Okay. So 3 or 4 of them are Lavalas. Unfortunately, Lavalas was the progressive organization that part of President Aristide's group, right? I'll tell you the 3 that are former Lavalas. Louis Girard-Gilles is now part of and he used to be very high up there in Jean-Bertrand Aristide's political party. Mm-hmm. Okay? Ezili Voltaire, when I went to Haiti to meet President Aristide, he was the chief of staff of President Aristide, Ezili Voltaire. Mm-hmm. He's part of this group. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. Like I told you, I know these people. I mean, I don't know them. Yeah, I know their political career. Okay, so I can tell you all their affiliations. So as I said, 3 of the top ones. Oh no, 4. Fleets Alphonse Jean. He is the candidate or the elected by the Montana Accord, right? But he was also former Lavalas, right? I told you about Ezili Voltaire. Always like he represents Lavalas party right now, right? Mm-hmm. Louis Girard-Gilles is now representing Louis Girard-Gilles, something called the Accord for 21 December. And that was the accord that Ariel Henry, the puppet prime minister, put in by Ellen Lalume in the UN and the US for the last 30 months, mm-hmm. his accord. So, but I have to give you context. He's just can't give you names. Mm-hmm. When the US came in 2004, what they did was splinter the Progressive Party of Lavalas. Splinter it. Okay? They deported Aristide, sent him to Central African Republic. He eventually ended up in Jamaica, mm-hmm. and then to South Africa. Mm-hmm. But we who were there, we had to fight back. And a lot of the folks that were part of the political party either were bought off or scared, or so many were killed, mm-hmm. right? So I don't hold any, I'm just giving you the facts. That's what happened. One that I did not expect, the last one who was holding off up until this CARICOM, was Moïse Jean-Charles. Moïse Jean-Charles has a very close relationship with Venezuela, with Cuba. He was educated in Cuba, and he is the one that's always talking about looking for an alternative to the Europeans, to the European hegemony. At the very end, like after this CARICOM council, he had set up something that was also questionable. But what you have, there are 2 powers on the ground right now vying for this empty space that they call presidency of Haiti. The one is the traditional politicians who I just gave you names of. Mm-hmm. Most of them have owned or some sort of political party, been part of some political party, and the 2 sort of political parties is like, you know how they have in America the duopoly of the Republicans and the Demon Rats, or the Republicans and the Demon Rats. Well, they have Famille Lavalas and PH-TKK, right? PH-TKK. PH-TKK is the neo-Duvalierists. So originally, Famille Lavalas was the progressive representing the masses, right? The amount of power that came against them was phenomenal, right? It took 20 years to get to this embarrassment, right? We fought back, though. I'm still standing. And no, you'll never see me there. I promise you. They can come and get me now. But a lot of my folks who started with me back in 1994 are not here. So in their names, I can never do what these Negroes are doing. But so this is where we are. The U.S. puts so much crushing on our people.
Yeah.
It's the same. I'll give you an example because I was teaching it this week about this idea, doing the total eclipse on Monday. Mm-hmm. It was the 220th anniversary. I say the greatest hero, the free Haiti movement that I run, everything that I run, the greatest hero to ever live, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. He's our Ogu. And yes, he's our Ogu. And he gave us some commandments. Mm-hmm. And so we were celebrating those commandments that the European, thinks that they're crushing. But as long as I live and my lineage lives, they can't crush it. We will rise and rise and rise. So on the solar eclipse, I urge, and I'm urging all of my listeners here, please, to go and look at the proclamation of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, which after the revolution was won in January 1st, 1804 was the independence that people recognize, of course. But in April 8th, 1804, this was months after, right? From January to, right? He did a proclamation because he saw that no European nation was going to recognize his independence. And they are so recalcitrant and arrogant. About 3 of them still stayed in Haiti. We beat them. Right? They were still staying there, right? Because, they're delusional. And even as they stayed there, right, they were killing Haitians, right, Haitians, who were abroad. Dessalines said hell to the no and killed them all. Now, so, as I told you, not only did he kill Toussaint Louverture, okay, who was his general, and they expect him not to feel nothing, not to kill a few white people.
Good.
So, and I have a reason for saying that. But then I give you another example that you're not going to know, besides the fact that they tortured Toussaint Louverture's wife, tortured her, trying to get her to, it's always about money for them, profit, gold, right? That's how they started the Mahafa. So they tortured Suzanne Louverture while they had, her husband and her children in jail, kidnapped from Ayiti during the war, right? So when we won, right, we know what they were doing to her. She was about 200 pounds because she was a farmer, right? And these women were the ones that were feeding the army. They were the sutlers. They were the ones, with the barges going from the south to the north, whatever, bringing food to the various army camps, right? And that's what she did, right? But of course, like I said, our stories are not told, right? I've been here for this long, but hardly many people know who I am because the Europeans never going to, they made the mistake of putting a microphone on Malcolm X's face, and they'll never do that again. So any one of them you see with the microphone in their faces, they're really not revolutionaries. So I say that because that proclamation, Jean-Jacques Dessalines gave us 2 commandments. The first one was that he warned us that the European was going to divide and conquer. So he said at that time, he calls them mulattoes, or the black and the yellow, the mixed race folks, like the generals that they were always using as the slave catchers, or they would get them education in France and then they would bring them back to be managers of their father's lands. But then they didn't have social and civil rights. They were also fighting for those things. So at that point in time, Dessalines said, to Pétion Mboye, to the mulattoes, that we can't be divided. Don't let them divide us, right? That was his first rule of this proclamation after he got rid of the spies in our midst, right? The second rule was, never again shall a white man or European set foot on this island as proprietor or master.
Yes.
Okay, so those were the two. And so this week, I'd love for all of you who are in solidarity with liberty and freedom to remember those two commandments of our great hero.
Absolutely.
The mulattoes, of course, didn't pay heed, and they soon killed Jean-Jacques Dessalines on October 17th, 1806, thinking that somehow the European would never look at them. But the European did. In 1915, the European brought in immigrants from Syria and Lebanon. Those immigrants were from the Sykes-Picot secret agreement between British and the French, where they helped break up the Ottoman Empire. Well, Lebanon and Syria were a French territory. But they called themselves the Arabs, but they were French. They were not Muslims. They brought them to Haiti and replaced the mulattoes with these white folks from French colonies. Today, they own 98% of the local economy, and they control the ports. But the European and the academics won't ever tell you this, because they want to project a different image, like they're Arabs and Middle Easterns, but they were French. And they gave them, like they do in our this is the template, right? They gave them favorable treatment to the local mulatto, the local merchants, the black ones, right? And so today, like I said, they are the bane of our existence. And the mulattoes who did not follow Dessalines' decree are all gone from Haiti right now. And so the second one was you can't own land if you're white. And Dessalines had a different definition from white than the European. You understand? And that is very important. This is why they don't teach Jean-Jacques Dessalines. To me, he was the greatest thinkers on the planet.
Yeah.
War tactics, his guerrilla tactics, everything about this man. Obviously, I'm definitely biased. So Jean-Jacques Dessalines, a great thinker, in his 1805 Constitution, he defined black. Okay? And he said, because these are non-humans, because you can't be human and rape 6-year-olds or make babies your foot warmers, which is what they did, right? Or kill human beings or sell them like they're furniture. So his second commandment was destroyed in 1915 when the European came back, and we had a 19-year occupation. This is important for today, because when Aristide came in 1986 with regards to the fall of the 30-year dictatorship of Duvalier, right? They wrote a constitution. It's called the 1987 Constitution. It was essentially written by progressive minds. The U.S. has been trying to destroy that constitution forever, since I've been here, okay? CARICOM, part of CARICOM's provision for these 7 Negroes is to rewrite that constitution. For them to even be part of that council, there were provisions that CARICOM, who's a colonized space, can't wipe any of our ancestors' shoes, right? They had the conditions for these Haitians to now become presidents of Haiti. And part of that condition was, you must accept Kenya to come in as a multinational force. you must accept resolutions of the UN, and you have to change the Haitian Constitution, the 1987 Constitution that the people have been fighting against. Well, in 1915, when the United States first came back to Haiti and as a colonist, Roosevelt erased or tried to erase that condition of no white man should own land. And that's when that was taken out of our Constitution, right? 1987, they didn't go that far, but they said the mines and resources of Haiti are for Haitians. The United States wants to change the Constitution. It's going to use these Negro faces, including Lavalas, to do that. Because the World Bank has rewritten our Constitution so that, and they've wanted our resources. Haiti has one of the biggest oil reserves on the planet, gold, iridium, and so on. And they just want it. It doesn't matter that we paid 122 years from 1825 to 1922. We were paying a debt to France for my grandgrands. So that's why I don't particularly, I can tell you what that CARICOM stuff is about. It's about the colonization of Haiti and getting black faces to stand for it, right? Remember, when the French came back, they didn't come back as French. They first came back as priests doing the education of the elite in 1860. And then they came back in 1915 as Lebanese and Syrian French, right? To make you think that somehow they weren't white. But now they own all of our ports, the local economy, and the import-export business, right? So that's where we are.
Okay.
Oh,
I'd imagine, though.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Fritz Alpha Jean is from the Accord of Montana. Leslie Voltaire is Lavalas. Petit Dessalines, that's another party. That's Moïse Jean-Charles, formerly of Lavalas. He's Emmanuel Vettilaire. And then you have someone from the private sector. He was already part of Ariel Henry's government, and he's from the private sector. His name is Laurent Saint-Cyr. And then we have Dominique Dupuis from an AD party, since you guys said you wanted to know them. Gérard Gilles, I call 21. Edgar Leblanc-Fils from something called OPL. And then you have somebody named Fresnel Joseph, who's from the Société Civile Diaspora. I don't know him. I'm in the diaspora. And then, so they have 6 voting members, and then I think they have two alternates that are non-voting members, something like that. There's 9 altogether.
Okay. 2
of them are non-voting. 7 of them are voting.
But I can imagine the European narrative is going to be, well, Lavalas are involved, so it must be okay. Because Lavalas, this is the party of Aristide. You like Aristide, therefore Lavalas are involved in this thing. But obviously you've clearly explained, actually things change. And clearly it has for them. I'm just wondering, you mentioned 2004 a lot in terms of the coup. Also brought in United Nations under Brazil with the MINUSTAH. And that was troops from Brazil, from Bangladesh, whatever. I'm wondering, is this not just Mark II, but in blackface? Because now they've realized actually, if there's non-African people in there, in terms of propaganda, it will have less legitimacy. Is that behind why they have CARICOM so prominent in this process? And they want to bring in Kenya, Barbados sending troops, Jamaica sending troops, I think Bahamas as well. Is it really Minister Part 2?
Yes, but it's deeper. Think of MINUSTAH. So in 2004, when the vampires came back, they use MINUSTAH, the UN. So the UN,
Yeah.
I say, is a criminal organization from
Yes,
Lumumba.
absolutely.
Okay. And that's not even hyperbole. Okay.
No.
That's not exaggeration.
No.
From Lumumba to
Yes.
Aristide, right? They tell you they're democratic, but 5 Eurasian powers have veto power over 192 nations.
Yeah.
So how the hell is that democratic, right? Also, so they use these. They use this pretext of having universal consent. The black man represents struggle, and you know, he's not part of that European exploitation. So they're always going to use, you know, the Obamas or the CARICOMs or the mulatto factor. But I think it's deeper now. I think they have tried so hard to destroy us, and yet I still live. There's still Haitians in Haiti fighting back. So they've moved it up a notch. So this new minister, this new UN mission is black because they don't care if they all die. They intend to kill us. So those Negroes in their country, unfortunately, are facing the same colonial paradigms, right? And they have very poor soldiers who they're going to pay $2,000 a month to. Well, of course, you know, if you're a soldier in Kenya and, you know, you're getting $200 a month and they're going to pay you $2,000 a month, you're going to come to Haiti. They used to do that back in slavery days in the Gold Coast, right? They used to say, you either go find me some Africans in the inland or, you know, I'm going to take your mother and your sister. So it's the same thing. They're using William Ruto, who, and they always use blacks they have a dossier on. Like, they're not going to use you, right? They're going to use blacks who actually fell into their traps. And their 3 traps are the same. Drugs, right? You know, selling of guns. They use all those things, right? Remember, you know, we were trading our own people for guns, right? So Kenya is the one that answered the call, right? They spent like 2 years after they killed Jovenel Moïse, right? You guys got to be clear about that, right? The European has a template, right? They create the problem and then they bring the solution. And then they have the media that babbles on with nothing constructive, right? They won't tell you what I'm telling you, right? It was U.S. agents that killed Jovenel Moïse on July 7th, 2021, right? And then the I hate the word gangs. Remember I told you their language will subjugate you.
Yeah.
So they're death squads.
Yeah.
You know, poor Haitian men that they drop guns on. MINUSTAH used to do that in the Cité Soleil space, right? And then they use that just like the Totomakutes did back in the time of Duvalier to earn a living. So this is what they do with Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram. But I've been here long enough. I know black men are not this brutal. I knew to look for something else. Imagine, right? Muslim men in Nigeria going to schools in big swath, taking women and gang raping them. These are Muslim men. That's who Boko Haram is. Something is wrong. This is not part of our civilization. So when I saw that starting to happen in Haiti, I started looking for where the toxic chemicals were. And I'll tell you about those things. But I think I'm finished with who the 7-member council is.
Oh, yeah.
Why they don't look at anything progressive.
Yeah.
So I want you to direct me where you want me to go.
Yeah. the CARICOM situation, it's a constant battle with Haiti to really challenge the dominant narratives in European media. And so that's really what we want to try and do as well, is arm our listeners with, well, they can identify these narratives as they come. Just quickly though, you mentioned just now Tonton Macoute. Now, I just happened to be looking on Wikipedia, and there's a page on Wikipedia about Tonton Macoute. And basically they explain it as being very much intertwined with voodoo. I'm thinking, are they serious? But it's out there. So anyone, for example, hears about the Papa Doc regime and they just got Tonton Macoute and they looks up on them, the first thing they're going to find is Wikipedia. Wikipedia will say that these Tonton Macoutes, they were involved in voodoo. That's how they operated. That's what they was entwined in. And it's very troubling because obviously this is the tradition which liberated Haiti. This is Haitian tradition. But that's the narrative that is out there. And again, there's also the Hollywood narrative about voodoo as well. So how would you respond to that characterization of Tonton Macoute being very much involved in using voodoo to carry out their work and their brutalities even?
Okay. So voodoo is given the demonization narrative by the European so-called civilization folks, right? So they have to destroy something that they know is very powerful that helped Haiti and its liberation. And so let me go to what they call the gangs right now, right? Some of the gangs right now are saying using voodoo to stop bullets, that they can disappear, that they can't die. You know, a lot of unscientific conversations. These young men who have no education whatsoever, going by instincts, right? And taking from what they might hear. So no, if you hurt the vulnerable, if you don't work for the collective good, then that's not my heart and that's not my grand's voodoo. Voodoo is a system by which we protect the collective that brings into the present time the past irreducible essence of all that was great in our ancestors' education and way of being. And it's connected, we are connected to the biosphere. We are connected to nature. And if it doesn't look natural, don't act like natural, it ain't us. So voodoo is lifting up sacred energies. There are different energies in the universe. So if the Tonton Macoutes were killing innocent people and committing crimes, they were not voodooist. Same with the gangs right now in Port-au-Prince, who are not even acting like gangs, right? So the European uses chaos to rule. So the narrative that they're selling you is to confuse you. I learned that the first week I ever got to Ayiti. And I thank the ancestors for giving me that insight, because it has helped me through many, many, many dark times. Right now, because the European is so mad that they got beaten by Black people and doesn't fit into their delusion of being Superman and Tarzan, they want to crush us. They want to change the story. They want to demonize us like they've demonized Jean-Jacques Dessalines, like they've made invisible the women who trained Jean-Jacques Dessalines, right? The Dahomey in the Congo. So right now, the chaos that they're working with, right, is revolution. They want to make a mockery out of the Haitian revolution. So they have like 2 or 3 white liberals who are running around interviewing Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier and saying he's a revolutionary.
Ah, yes.
So it's the same way they try to demonize Vodun. To the point today, most Vodouists don't even know what the hell it means. What is it? They've become shysters, whatever, or, selling amulets or BS. Okay. But for anyone who wants to know what it is, right? It is the irreducible essence of all that we were before, all that we will be, past, present, and future. It is the connection to the biosphere that we have. Like for me, right? I am animated. My soul is animated by fire, right? I am Èzili. I run with water. Those are the 2 elements out of the 4 elements that animates my spirit. Each one of us have one element that's a little bit higher than the other, right? I don't want to give you a course on Vodun, but essentially those folks who are saying, what they did was there was an infrastructure in Haiti. And that infrastructure was put in during the Haitian Revolution.
Yeah.
In that infrastructure, those Bafiotis, Black collaborators who came to Haiti enslaved were recognized by the people that they had sold. We are the only nation that figured out a way to redeem them. And so that infrastructure was called Rara. They're the ones that go out in the streets. There was the sentinels. They were made to protect the inner sanctum of Vodun. Right? So there's all these secret societies. And some of the visible representative were called chef de section in Haiti. They were the chief of the section. So there was like all these different sections with different chiefs, right? But they were the outer layers of Vodun. They were there for a reason. Most of them, like I said, were Bafiotis. Bafiotis was a group out in the coast of Africa who used to sell Africans. When they got to Haiti and they met the people that they sold, they had to redeem. We didn't have prisons.
Wow.
So there's a lot of layers to what Vodun is. So the outer layer got nothing to do with who I am. They're paying a debt. Okay. So when African culture is lifted up, we will still have to do this because we've got to figure out what we're going to do with the Bafiotis. Today, Bafiotis. How are they going, soul going to be redeemed? And it's our job. And that's what we did. So the Bafiotis, the outer, whatever, they were easily taken in because they were the chef de section. They were taken in by the Tonton Makouts. And even today, like I said, it's very difficult to get into the inner sanctum of what Vodun is.
Yeah, but we do know no Vodun, no revolution, no liberated Haiti.
Yo, this is Swiss So Solid. Africa speaks with Alkebu-Lan. Blaze the fire, 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 fire.
Dinner, my sisters and brothers. Yes, you just heard the word sound and extreme depth and power of our sister Èzili Dantò. They're live, well, not live, here on Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan here on the Big G, sisters and brothers. We're looking at how can we re-liberate Haiti, part 1. That's part 1 of a series, sister and brother. You're going to hear more from the interview on our next show, sisters and brothers. Kanamari Adam, more power from our sister. So that was a bit of a breakdown We're hearing about the Transitional Council. We hear this as he break down some of those characters involved in that. And we're going to go back now to our brother leader Bandaka. We're also going to open the lines very shortly. But before we do that, let me see if we've got any text, brother Kweku.
One from Thomas Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Sister Danto is such an eloquent, good communicator. Why can't she run for the presidency of Haiti? She is also good looking as well. And there's another one from 449. Haiti is a predominant African island that's still colonized like anywhere else in the world. In my opinion, Brother Jean-Baptiste Aristide is the only one who stood up for his people and island. These Western demons hounded him out and put in neo-colonial puppets worse than the Papa Doc and Baby Doc. That's from Brother Kwame Abuache.
Mm-hmm. Give thanks for that, Brother Kweku, Tendamrai. Let me see if we've still got Brother Leader Bandaka on the line. Tendamrai, Brother Leader.
Yeah, Tendamrai, I'm still very much here giving thanks and praises, Brother Olatunji, Brother Kweku. Tendamrai,
Brother Leader. So what are your, obviously you were there, but your reflections on that first tranche, shall we say, of the interview with Sister Èzili Danto, Brother Leader? What's your reflections on that?
Well, tonight, Moari, first of all, I want to give thanks and praises unto Moari Nyakusika, God the creator of the universe, through Mudimu Mukuru, our great ancestors, for our blessed sister and her outstanding commitment and work for our people over decades.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yesterday, as I said to her, we give thanks and praises and even humble ourselves to her revolutionary longevity. She's a sister that has been serving our people for a very long time, and in very dangerous territory as well. As she shared with us, she was an advisor, a legal advisor of President Aristide. And if we know anything about the plight of President Aristide, we would know that not only was he toppled on two separate occasions, he was toppled in 1991, only 7 months after being voted in, first president to have been voted in after a free and fair general election in Haiti. And in 7 months, he was toppled by CIA agents and CIA assets from within the army and the police force in Haiti. And then, having been returned in 1994 and having served 2 years, not allowed to complete his 5 years. So when you really calculate it, he only served 1 year and 11 months of his first term. And then he was re-elected in 2001. You can't, according to the Haiti constitution, one cannot have 2 consecutive terms. So he couldn't stand for election in he couldn't stand for a second term. In any case, he was toppled. But he stood for election in 2000 and commenced his second term in, I believe it was February 2001, and was toppled in 2004 again in February 2004. So he just about served 3 years as president and 3 years under the yoke of U.S. and French presence, U.S. and French manipulation, U.S. and French destabilization of the country. And he was also the subject of death threats and assassination attempts, which is much less told. So that our sister Èzili Dantò, and we should also know that there were various death squads operating in Haiti during and after President Aristide's tenure as president. And many of the supporters and followers of Aristide were beaten, tortured, brutalized, and thousands, literally thousands, were assassinated. So it was very, very dangerous ground. So when we listen to our sister, we're listening to a very brave African warrior queen. You know, it's easy to take these things for granted, but she was a woman who walked and lived in the shadow of death, you know, which she's not entirely out of, you know, because of her pro-Aristide, pro-Famille Labalas legacy. So when we speak of an Èzili Dantò, we're speaking of a seriously committed and courageous African queen. So we bow to her majesty as well as her courage, and we just give thanks and praises for her works, her fantastic works that is blessing all of us and strengthening all of us. Tendai Moari.
Tendai Moari, give thanks for that, brother leader. Let's go into some of the things that you were saying. So she did break down, for example, some of the characters involved in this so-called transitional council, CARICOM hailing it as a possibility of a new beginning. And there's members, as she was saying, former members of Famille Labalas, the party of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, in there as well. So can it truly be, with that involvement, a new beginning for the embattled people of Haiti, brother leader?
Tendai Moari, no, emphatically it cannot, brother Olatunji. It emphatically cannot, because the same imperialist forces that presided over previous transitional phases after orchestrating coups that depose Aristide, those same forces are there. The United Nations, the United States of America, France, Canada, and those, Brazil, and those international forces, so-called international community, are still presiding over this transitional process. They are the ones who are still making the decisions. There is an entity called the core group, and the core group is constituted by some of the same international forces that I've just mentioned. And they are the ones who make all the decisions about everything that is happening in Haiti, and have been since 2004. Let me just state, Sister Èzili talked about the two coups that toppled our dear brother Aristide, and I think we need to understand the timing of these coups and the context in which they took place. The first term of Aristide's presidency, Aristide laid out his manifesto, if you will, and it was a manifesto of redeeming poverty and conditions of poverty affecting our people in Haiti. Starting with the sweatbox conditions that our people were condemned to, these factories where our people were earning peanuts. And he wanted to just increase the the minimum wage to something like $5 a day, and that was objected to and obstructed by the American government, the French government, because they had their multinational corporations exploiting the cheap labor, the cheapened labor of our people in Haiti. They saw that as a declaration of war because it is one of the items that that Aristide wanted to push forward. Aristide opened a university, or you could call it a medical school. The university did covered other disciplines, but it was primarily designed to produce doctors and nurses to improve the health service and health system in Haiti. That was not liked by actually that was in his second term in 2002 that happened. So let me go back to 2001. He put an emphasis on improving public services and increasing public spending so that improvements could be made to public services like health care, education, housing, and various aspects of society. And again, all of that was resisted by the forces, these inimical forces that that I've just mentioned. He also tried to legitimize and normalize the practice of voodoo, announcing voodoo as a national religious expression. We prefer to say spiritual expression of our people. The Creole language, he legitimized the Creole language. In fact, he used to communicate with his people publicly in Creole. He's the only president that has ever done so. All previous presidents would communicate predominantly in French to the ordinary people. He used Creole to communicate with the people. But the cardinal sin, the worst sin that he committed, quote unquote, in that first term was that he commemorated in the National Palace the Boakeman ceremony, which was the invocation, there was the Ogun ceremony that invoked the spirit of Ogun, the Orisha of war, the Orisha of justice, the Orisha of iron, which alludes to the manufacturing of weapons and equipment to fight and defend ourselves and destroy the enemy, etc., etc. And he had a commemoration, a bicentenary commemoration in 1991, in Mosiah 1991. And it was within weeks of that ceremony that the coup was orchestrated and executed, and he was overthrown in that coup. And then the second coup, which happened in 2004, as we all know, happened in the bicentenary of Haiti's independence. That year, massive commemoration events were planned in Haiti. I remember very well that people, Africans, Pan-Africanists from around the world, had their eyes on Haiti and were planning to travel to Haiti to participate in the celebrations that were due to take place there. I myself was toying with the idea. I myself was thinking it would be great if we could go to Haiti at some point in that year to, experience some of the celebrations. And sadly, on the 29th of February in 2004, the coup d'etat that overthrew Aristide took place. And let it be known that that Aristide has said very clearly that that it was the American government that kidnapped him, quote unquote, that kidnapped him and who took him out of Haiti and flew him to the Central African Republic on the African continent. And we should also remind ourselves that one of the things that upset the forces, the imperialist forces, was that in 2003, Aristide had demanded that, in fact, he had convened a conference, a reparations conference. And coming out of that reparations conference, where it was calculated that the money that was extorted from Haiti by France, which they call an indemnity for loss of property. Loss of property was the loss of land and human beings that they called slaves, our ancestors that they called slaves, which they felt they had a divine right to continue to own, quote unquote, and rule over, for life. And they considered it impertinent of Haiti, the people of Haiti, to free themselves and presume they had the right to impose upon them that they must pay an indemnity, in other words, reparations, to France. And they did so on pain of a threat of bombing the ports of Haiti if Haiti did not yield and agree to pay this 150 million gold francs to France. It took Haiti 122 years from 1825 to 1947, 122 years to pay off that indemnity. As a result, they had to cut down trees, cut down millions of trees, depleting the environment of its forestry. Right now, Haiti is suffering from deforestation as a result of that having happened.
So, sorry, brother leader. What was the reason for the cutting down of the trees?
To pay off the debt. Of course, from trees, the trees is a raw material for making paper, for making wood, for building furniture and so on and so forth. And so, in the absence of the finances, France and the United States of America demanded that Haiti cut down their trees and either sell the wood cheaply to them or give the wood to them or whatever it is, give the trees to them. So that was one of the things that they did. 60% of Haiti in the 1800s was forestry. Today, it's less than 12%. When there is heavy rainfall or hurricanes or so on, Haiti suffers from mudslides and tsunamis and so on as a result of the emaciation, the depletion of its forestry. Haiti suffers from that today. So when you hear about flooding in Haiti that destroys homes and lives, that is due to this legacy. It's devastated the lives of the people of Haiti. Now, let me also say that coming out of this conference and this demand for France to pay back the money that they extorted from Haiti over those 122 years, immediately a conference was called in Canada. This is a conference that our dear sister referred to as the Ottawa Initiative. It's called the Ottawa Initiative on Haiti. The forces of global white supremacy mentioned earlier on met in Ottawa, Canada. And that is where they made the decision to topple Aristide. That is where they decided that Aristide had to go. And that's where they commenced the plans to overthrow Aristide. Our sister also mentioned, and I don't think it came out today, but let me just mention it. It will come out in one of the future tranches of the interview. But she also mentioned that that Ottawa initiative was where they determined that in 20 years from now, or by the year 2020, that Haiti's population is likely to be upwards of or around 20 million. It is 12 million now. And they decided that that would be a potential potentially incendiary for the forces of global white supremacy. In other words, that would be a sitting time bomb that they would be less likely to control if the population of Haiti was allowed to expand to those numbers. What we have seen since then is wanton massacre of Haitians over the last 2 decades, and it is still going on. That includes, beloved brothers and sisters, we're talking about MINUSTAH, which is the United Nations so-called stabilization mission in Haiti, which lasted from 2004 to 2017. In those 13 years, at least 15,000 Haitians were killed at the hands of UN forces, otherwise known as MINUSTAH. Over thousands of women were reportedly raped or sexually abused by UN forces. And children abused and killed. Over 600 paternal lawsuits have been brought against the United Nations from women in Haiti. But apparently that's a drop in the ocean. Apparently there are possibly hundreds of thousands of MINUSTAH babies that have been left in Haiti. In other words, hundreds of thousands, tens to hundreds of thousands of women raped, sexually abused, used, impregnated by MINUSTAH forces. And some of them, a handful of them, are trying to get some kind of justice from the United Nations. In addition to that, many of us will know about the cholera outbreak that happened in 2010, October 2010, the cholera outbreak that killed at least 10,000, and sources, some reliable sources say up to 30,000 Haitians killed from cholera since 2010. People are still contracting cholera. The legacy of cholera is still with Haiti today. People are still dying from cholera or developing all kinds of comorbidities as a result of having contracted cholera. So, and then
I think that
we
was
know
the first
that
time they contracted cholera in that country, wasn't it?
Sorry?
That's the first time they contracted cholera.
First time, and that yes, and it was a direct result of military forces, UN military forces, contaminating a river stream in Haiti that served a widespread community as a result of the military forces pouring waste disposal into this river stream.
The strain of cholera was the same, identical to that in that
Zimbabwe.
No, I think it's Bangladesh. I think it's their forces, and that's why some was saying they couldn't understand why they were sent there, because they know these people are infected.
Indeed,
with White House
you know.
in there.
Then we had the earthquake, which also happened in 2010.
Yeah.
In January 2010, January the 12th, 2010 to be exact, and 250,000 people.
Wow.
250,000 people died as a result of that earthquake. 300 to 500,000 injured. Over 1.5 million left homeless, and hundreds of thousands became refugees and left.
What assistance did they get, Brother Leader?
Sorry?
What assistance came to their aid?
Very little. Very little. In fact, it is well known that billions of pounds were collected in aid of relieving the suffering of our people in Haiti. Billions of pounds, and in fact there was a hurricane as well, from which billions of pounds were raised, and nobody knows where the overwhelming majority of those billions have gone. But what is known is that the Haitian people, by and large, have not seen those billions and have not benefited from those billions.
And the Americans sent troops?
Yes, the Americans sent troops. In fact, in 1994, when the Americans brought Aristide back to Haiti, because Haiti had become completely ungovernable because of the protests and demonstrations that were taking place by Aristide supporters, and also because of protests that were happening in the United States of America, mainly by Haitian expats, but also Pan-Africanists who were supporting the Haitian cause. Aristide was brought back in 1994, but with 20,000 American troops. America has not left Haiti alone for centuries. Even when France had ships circling Haiti and threatening to bombard Haiti with cannons and bombs, it was with the backing of the United States of America. During the Haitian Revolution, France was being supported logistically by the United States of America. Yeah? So America has been meddling in the affairs of Haiti. In fact, as many of us know, in 1915, America invaded Haiti and remained in Haiti, controlling its politics, its economics, and every aspect of of its society, its media, and every aspect of its society, including stealing its gold reserves, from its central bank, and depositing it in the U.S. Citibank in Manhattan. So America has always been involved and meddling in Haiti's affairs. And what I'm saying is those same forces are involved presently in determining the transitional process to restore political and economic stability to Haiti. And I just don't think it makes any sense. I don't think that the process can be trusted. And every sensible, intelligent Haitian that I have heard or I have spoken to are distrustful of this present process. Tendai Mwari.
Give thanks for that, Brother Leader Bandaka. What we want to do as we move towards the 10 o'clock mark, we're going to open the line, sisters and brothers, to hear from you. And what's your view on the current situation in Haiti, or indeed the past situation in Haiti? We know it has a rich history, and as Brother Leader just outlined, the history of invasion and occupation as well. But the people still resist. So, sisters and brothers,
call now on 0203 289 6504. Skype us on official Galaxy Afiri Radio. WhatsApp or text on 07947 479 219.
Yes, sisters and brothers, you're tuned into Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan. Speaking to Brother Leader Bandaka, spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement. We heard earlier a recorded interview with Sister Èzili Danto from the Free Haiti movement and the Haitian Lawyers Leadership Network as well, in the first of a 3-part series. How do we re-liberate Haiti? Sisters and brothers, I want to hear from you. What's your view on the current situation in Haiti? Have you been keeping track of not only the white grievance, white stream media, but also the African media that's putting out different narratives on the situation there? Let's hear from what you think. Is the CARICOM the way forward? Are the progressives, quote unquote, like Mia Motley, going to help assist Haiti and pull it out from the morass of the decade and a half of United Nations occupation? Let's hear from you, sisters and brothers. What's your view on this very, very important subject? Haiti is so important in the African consciousness from that time of 1804 when it liberated itself, the first nation to liberate off the shackles of enslavement through armed combat, beating the superpowers of the day, the French, the Spanish, the British, with the Americans in the background, sisters and brothers. A massive feat, and we should never forget that. Brother Kweku, we have some text coming in?
Yes, we have. We got 396. Yes. Greetings, family. Great show as usual. Can you tell me on which island was the first uprising, Haiti or the Maroon of Jamaica? Please elaborate on the dates. One love. That's Eon, E-O-N, Tendai Mwari.
Thank you, Eon. Yeah. Give thanks. Brother Leader, any?
Yeah, well, I do believe that it would have been Haiti. In 1522 was the first uprising. I think the first, and I'm just checking Irritated Genie to confirm, but I think the first Africans were brought to Haiti in 1508.
Sorry, Brother Leader, what's Irritated Genie?
Irritated Genie, a book on the Haiti Revolution that was written by Brother Shemsu Jehuti, otherwise known as Jacob Carruthers. In fact, the book is in his slave label, Jacob Carruthers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it would have been Haiti, in Haiti, that you would have the earlier uprisings. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give thanks for that answer. Give thanks for that text. So you two can text in. Text in, WhatsApp in, Telegram in on 07947 479 You want to phone in and add to the reading we're having with Brother Leader Bandaka, you can call in on 0203 289 6504. Sisters and brothers. So yeah, we're dealing with Ayiti. How can we liberate Ayiti? What's your role? What's your responsibility? And what's your understanding? What are you learning about Haiti and its history, both from centuries and from recent months and years, sisters and brothers? What say you? Let's hear from you now, sisters and brothers, on those magic numbers. Tendamari. So yes, Brother. So we're hearing about this this transitional council and looking at CARICOM. But CARICOM hasn't necessarily been a good friend to Haiti anyway over the years, has it, Brother Leader?
Well, Tendai Mwari, CARICOM hasn't been a good friend to itself. It hasn't been a good friend to African people. CARICOM, unfortunately, is made up of islands in the Caribbean, which are, to all intents and purposes, neo-colonial constructs. And so CARICOM would be the sum total of 15 neo-colonial nations. Therefore, it will function as a neo-colonial entity, and neo-colonial entities serve its neo-colonial masters. And I hasten to just remind our people that neo-colonialism is colonialism. It is just a more subtle and sophisticated form of colonialism that is done behind black faces. It means that European interest is the focus of the neo-colonial project. It is there to preserve and protect and promote the interests of European masters, except in the case of the neo-colonial project, it has black people fronting it, but the objective is the same. So we can't expect anything more or anything different from CARICOM, sadly, and unfortunately. We, the people, are going to have to hold that body to account, because what they are doing is wicked. What they are doing by failing to gather the wagons, if you like, around Haiti and protect Haiti from these vicious external forces. They know what these foreign forces have been doing to Haiti for a very long time. They know when Aristide was toppled in 2004 and spirited out of the country by the United States of America, an elder by the name of Randall Robinson, he's a lawyer, human rights expert, and a lawyer, and the founder of an organization called Trans-Africa. He contacted a congresswoman by the name of Maxine Waters and contacted the Jamaican Prime Minister, who at the time was P.J. Patterson, and requested Jamaica's involvement as a regional entity in this, explaining the situation, because he knew that it was the Americans who had captured and kidnapped Aristide, because he had called Aristide's home the night before, and an American voice had answered the phone. He asked for Aristide, and the person said he was not there, and he asked for Aristide's wife. The person said he was not there, she was not there, and put the phone down. And then when Aristide was kidnapped, when he had the opportunity, he phoned and spoke to both Maxine Waters and Randall Robinson, and made it clear to them that he was kidnapped and that he had not resigned, that the American government kidnapped him. Randall Robinson called P.J. Patterson, who I believe at the time was the chair of CARICOM, and give him his due. P.J. Patterson responded by sending one of his parliamentarians, assuring Randall Robinson that he would have a parliamentarian on that airplane, because Randall Robinson and Maxine Waters, with the support of, what's that actor's name?
Danny Glover.
Danny Glover had chartered an airplane to travel to the Central African Republic to retrieve Aristide and his wife. And that's what they did. They actually chartered an airplane and went to the Central African Republic. Randall Robinson with Maxine Waters, a congresswoman, a U.S. congresswoman, and a Jamaican member of parliament, right? Traveled to the Central African Republic and spoke to President Bozizi of the Central African Republic and demanded that he release Aristide to them. Right? This is one of the great feats of accomplishment in our history. This was a brave thing for them to do, because their airplane could have been shot down. They could have been arrested when they got into the country. It was a bold and brave thing to do. It would have been difficult to arrest a Jamaican member of parliament and a congresswoman, because they would have been drawing attention to themselves that they did not want. So this was an embarrassment to the ill-intended and wicked actions of the American government, right? And the French government. Aristide said that when he was there in Central Africa, he was surrounded by military, by French and U.S. military. So these people went there with the press, Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman and some other U.S.-based press was also on the airplane with them. They invited to come on the airplane with them. And they demanded that Aristide was turned over to them. And they were able to, in fact, Maxine Waters had to say to the President Bozizi of Central African Republic, that if he does not hand over Aristide, and in fact, the President told them when they asked him if he had them under arrest, if he had arrested them or whatever it is, he said no, he had not. He was doing a favor. And this is how Randall Robinson, and Randall Robinson is on YouTube speaking to this, actually. Randall Robinson, who passed away March last year. Randall Robinson said, President Bozizi said he's doing a favor to the French government and the U.S. government. Maxine Waters had to make it clear to him, if he does not release Aristide to her, she was going to kick up a stink. And she's supposed to be on the floor of Congress tomorrow, right? She's going to kick up a stink and will be all over the world press and media. Eventually, he released Aristide to them, and they took Aristide back to Jamaica. At the time, the Jamaican government came under pressure by the U.S. government. According to Randall Robinson, Condoleezza Rice called the Jamaican Prime Minister and threatened him that Aristide cannot stay in Jamaica. He must not stay in any part of the Caribbean region. He had to come out of the Caribbean region. She said otherwise she will shut down Jamaica. Condoleezza Rice. Condoleezza Rice, who has a friend who died in the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham in 1963, September the 15th, 1963. One of the 4 girls that was killed in that church with that vicious, evil bombing of that church was a close friend of hers. Someone who visited her home. She visited, some sources say she was actually in the church, but she doesn't say that. But she said one of her best friends got killed in the church. Condoleezza Rice phoned the Jamaican Prime Minister and threatened to shut down the country. And apparently, a couple of days before Aristide was spirited out of the country, Colin Powell had called him and told him that Haitian military forces was coming to kill him, and that the American government, will not be doing anything about it. Randall Robinson tells us this, and in fact, he's written it in a book. The title of the book slips me. Oh, the title of the book slips me at the moment. Right? So the whole of the Caribbean, the whole of CARICOM was aware of this.
Brother Leader, is it the unbroken agony?
The unbroken agony, yes. The unbroken agony of a people or something. Haiti, the unbroken agony of a people.
Haiti, from revolution to the kidnapping of a president.
That is the one. That's the one. Yeah. That's the book. That's the book. And the story is told in that book. And the entire CARICOM, remember I said P.J. Patterson was chair or president, whatever they call it, of CARICOM at the time. And he took a stand. He sent one of his parliamentarians to accompany Randall Robinson and Maxine Waters, and secured. Aristide said he believed that if he had not, if they had not come for him, he would have died in the Central African Republic. Right? So CARICOM is utterly useless, utterly corrupt in this whole scenario. CARICOM is bought out and sold out by the inimical forces of global white supremacy. They are doing the bidding of America and France and Canada. Canada is one of those vicious agents as well, who oftentimes people don't see what they do. Right? So that is the reality. We cannot trust, I'm afraid, we cannot trust CARICOM. Cannot trust CARICOM. In fact, it is my conviction that what we witnessed recently with South Africa bringing a case of genocide to the International Court of Justice against Israel for what they're doing to the Palestinians in Gaza. Some African nation need to be bold enough and brave enough to bring a similar case against the American government, the Canadian government, the French government, for what is being done to Haiti, what has been done and what is being done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They ought to be brought before the International Court of Justice. Now, that's not our court. I'm not excited about it. I have no faith in it. But at the very least, as in the case of the case that was brought against Israel, it will expose them before the world. It will embarrass them before the world. The story will be told on an international level. The world needs to know what is happening in Haiti and why Haiti is in the state that it is in today. Right? It is by design. And it's not Haiti's own design. It is America's design. It is France's design. It is Canada's design. It is Brazil's design.
But brother leader,
it is the EU's design. The EU is part of that confounded core group as well. Sorry, my brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. In terms of an African country doing what they did in terms of taking a legal case against the Israeli, yeah, that will only come if there's a mass movement of the people demonstrating, yeah, because South Africa did that because right throughout the world there was mass demonstrations. So until we as a people, like say, rise up then.
I totally agree with you. We have got to get behind Haiti. We have got to get behind Haiti. There's a massive humanitarian disaster happening in Haiti and has been happening for decades, for centuries.
But there wasn't when the earthquake happened, there was a Caribbean-wide effort from the local people who was sending out boats and. Well, that's what I heard anyway. I don't know if that's true, but
yes, that's the people, though.
Yeah, the people.
That's the people, and who was coordinating? Who was coordinating it? You know, who were the curators? Who were the people on the ground that was so-called organizing and coordinating this whole thing? The same forces. They are the ones who had control of the monies and the materials that were being sent.
The same forces that's against us, you mean? When you say
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. A massive humanitarian disaster unfolding in Haiti and has been for the longest while. Our people are suffering in Haiti. And why? Because they were fresh enough and impertinent enough to end the system of slavery and to establish a free, independent nation and mean it. And not only that, exact justice against the enslavers. Because the enslavers were tried and convicted and executed. Thousands.
And they freed up South America.
Absolutely. Haiti played a key role. In fact, Haiti played a role in the American Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Hundreds of Haitian men fought in that war. Right? When it came to Haiti's revolution, the U.S. was supporting France in suppressing Haiti's revolution. Haiti gave the African world, the enslaved African world, hope. Haiti showed us that it can be done. In fact, that is the reason why they're being punished and have been since the inception of its independent nation.
Absolutely.
The forces of global white supremacy determined that Haiti would never be a successful nation, that the people of Haiti will suffer. And it's the same forces, right? Spain and France, right? And Britain in the form of Canada. Remember that that Canada is a, what do you call it? constitutional monarchy. Its head of state is a British monarch. America is also a descent. Wherever the U.S. government is, there goes Britain. They work hand in glove. So the same forces that our ancestors defeated 220 years ago, after 13 years, after 12 years of fighting for our freedom, justly fighting for our freedom and winning our freedom. Hundreds of thousands, we paid for that freedom with our blood and our sweat and our tears. We paid for that freedom, right? And France had the gall to turn around and impose an indemnity, reparations, just like how Britain paid reparations to the enslavers. And the descendants of those great, brave, courageous warriors are now suffering. No, we have to stand by Haiti. We must stand by Haiti. Got to raise up this issue. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, give thanks for that, brother leader. We need to leave it there, but sisters and brothers, tune in next strong when we continue to reason about Haiti. We've got more from the interview with Sister Èzili Danto. Make sure you come out as well on the 5th of May to Ashimira under the theme, Throw Away the Image of the White Man's God. Haiti and the Vision of African Liberation. You don't want to miss that one, sisters and brothers, at Chestnut Community Centre. We want to give thanks and praises to you for tuning in, for your text that came in this evening. We want to give thanks and praises to Brother Leader Bandaka, who was our main speaker this evening. We want to give thanks to Sister Èzili Danto, who we interviewed for this show as well. We want to say, join us again, sisters and brothers, next strong between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. where we talk it straight and make it plain. Next coming up, sisters and brothers, is the one and only SG Vibes. Round here we say, Tendai Mwari.
On fire, set ablaze by Bookman, 100,000 slaves and those unafraid who heard through the wire. You inspired Denmark, Bessie, and Nat Turner. Countless rebellions with machetes and burners. Maroons armed in their own farms with a village arm, chopping up arms of slave masters. And all sell out sounding alarms cause they had to. Black Pearl, unfurl your flag of hope. Black Pearl, white fang, still clutch your throat. Black Pearl, you inspired the world. Black Pearl, you're still a black pearl to me. Bomba, tango, bafio te, ganga, mundele. Kanga doki la kanga li sapase nambule liberté Haiti.
Sapase, sakafe, tout le monde haïtien sakafe. Naboule, 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 naboule mon cher. Liberté, nous besoin de liberté pour pays moins. Haïti,
dawn of Wartime and voodoo ceremony initiating Haitian liberation. Russian waters a la balas, there's no taming. Drown the orchestrators of this coup against their nation. Through political isolation, economic asphyxiation, Aristide was a stabilized, he wouldn't agree to privatization. That's when the U.S. IMF him with sanctions of blaming the faces to the bicentennial celebration. The CIA organized landowners and merchants under Route 184 and convergence. Trained illegal insurgents, putting murders back into service. Papa Doc lynchmen, Fab henchmen, to which the media was wordless. But the people of Haiti are resilient, their future like their past will be brilliant. Black Jacobins be smashing the myth of white supremacy. Both their legacy and destiny, it's time for death.
Ça passe, tout le monde, ça passe.